주로 받다는 서로다다 잡도 받아 상족스로 도만이 어떤 그 냠데 애들이 잡도 상도 냠데 요래 옛날에 책이 조당 돼서 세운거더니 무슨 당 잡수로 다른 호텔이 맞아도 집에 온초도 못 찍바리 잡도는 상도면 지들 집에 가서 잡가를 잡동들 특화청에서 세대랑 잡고도 로도도 진리나더니 사제게 롱거다 죽어요지 하고 조금에 길값도 되니 다 잡지도 봐도 최대 찍고는 맛이 받을 잡든지 나한테 셔터리 오면 하고 말이 특화미 막 잡고들 잡동송 드니지 잡지 동시에 다 잡는 거네 설레서 잡는 거네 사제게 저거 탑동에마도 잡는 상속선을 레스 상속선들이 끼어는 제가 상마지버를 냠는 로도시 다니 정도 다 잡는 다니는 상속은 물론 지켜봐도 잡는 로고도 시합고 왕도 때문에 잡는 로 나누고 지들 상속선을 도망고 또 그래 뭐만 좋았다 요거 때문에 초르들이 제가 배도 애들이 다 잡지도 봐 조법값을 자신 소에 받아야 되죠 그래 대체 생각 못 했지 처음 받아야 요바때 거기서 접하는데 잡지도 봐 네. 딱 대신 처음 받아 잡순 로상네들이 잡순 로사지 접하리 사지 주다기니서 드리대요. 특별한 백잡로 가는 산지 민항이래지 다 주다기니 다 요래 산지 요미 하고 그러면 되게 맛이 받을 때 제발 때 제발 하고 선선은 들이 개림을 값을 이 파체들이 등상 망시 하고 그래 산쪽에서 도망하지 성 맞이해 버려 잡지 조선 도망하는 게는 그 산쪽에서 잡도 연구요래 대 사람 제발
And so, Dharma friends, this afternoon we will receive the refuge vow and the Bodhisattva vows together. And now, really the difference between those different kind of vows mainly also lies in how kind of the capacity our mind has. So the refuge vow seems to be from the lower vehicle's perspective, and then seems to be more far away in terms of enlightenment. But then the three jewels are still always the same. But then now we are merging that with the Bodhisattva motivation. So normally when we take the refuge vow, when we follow the common vehicles, then we would take the refuge vow for the purpose of this life or until we die. And we don't really understand the nature of the Dharmakaya and the Sambhogakaya of the Buddha. So we take the refuge vow for as long as we live. But after we have died, we don't know how it will be carried on. So this is more from the lower vehicle's perspective. Now, if one really understands the true meaning of the refuge, one knows who is the actual refuge. The Buddha actually only showed us the method, but the actual refuge is Bodhichitta, and that will be with you from lifetime to lifetime, from now onward until you attain enlightenment. So that is what we are introduced to when we receive this vow. So if we don't recognize that, if we don't really understand that, then also there is a lesser benefit. So when we take the refuge vow, the first supplication that we repeat, the commitment, is taking refuge for as long as we live. And that is more from the perspective of the lower vehicles. But the refuge, the source of refuge is always the same. It's the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. But on the lower vehicle, the practitioners would see the Buddha as a human being, and they're not so sure whether he's still here or not, but they assert that the Dharma and the Sangha are present. So that's the only difference. So this is to be understood when you repeat the supplications, and most people do understand that. And so then the next level of commitment that we take is a commitment that we take from now onward until attaining enlightenment. And that, in essence, actually is the Bodhisattva vow. If you think I'm taking refuge until I attain enlightenment, that's really the essence of the Bodhisattva vow. So the difference lies really in the level of one's motivation, or one's capacity.
고초스나 잡을하다 니바시라더니 랑기체 토털들이 제발요래 특미지 잡로 특지지로 되게 잡을라 제발요래 특지 잡로 산지 거성거 용디 하고 요래 특미지 잡로들이 산지 쪽고 샥차타바나고 때로 요리 옛날 따다다 망시 공로리 잡들로 알았더니 따다 잡도 주더감이 당부 제진 소위 받아서 이제라 들이랑게 류가 뭐는 도발랑한테 송쳐서 간접배나 자와이제 장르가 자우지 상관하니 나 직송들은 나 이송들은 나가 송기는 나가 송가들랑 셈도 답자지 그때 조통통이 제 답자지는 어때 류가 도바디 저기 나 마시 받아 송아인데 때문에 로직을 송, 때문에 다와직을 송, 틀은 니자 차례를 송는 되지. 나는 저사님이 잡아야 돼. 다 자신 초에 받으시를 링콩랑게 나 마용까지 송나라왕. 송중이 영영 통화라는 거라왕이지. 뭐 특별히 저때 뭐 제야요 말이. 나그 매바는 더 캐리 셈이. 그래서 오감이요. 다치 종한 남강이 샤마자 창마 통제를 하고 된다고라는 게 소동도 막 담자리 사지 주소말로 타디 당도 사지 주소로 들어지는 상대를 도망야 되는 나그 좀 소지 말씀이지. 대 상대를 되니 진이 다 상속설도 맞지. 상속설도 맞다. 다 잡로 조로가 가리 심지 탐색을 통하는 거 많이 인品조는 인品대 당연히 상관이 돼 봐도 송장한테는 난 상속스럽게 갖고 되지 대 조치는 거에 소탈 잡로 설명하고 사왔었지 들리지는 너무 맞다와 대 상식은 난 상속스럽게 년이 something 상속스럽게 소고요 소되는 당연히 대해서 남들이 상속스럽게 도마디 냥냥 싸워야지 코로테들 문제 사조스는 양은 그 소라워지 양 람상들 요가지 람상 상속스 처리자지 그냥 수로래 상속스 그 도마 세르 타리 세르 타발 베즈로 바요래 제야요는 그야요는 야조 저거래 상속스 도마 세르 타바가 베레서 냐면 살아서야 살아서 대다와 하고는 들다가 지디지가 가비 책사오요에 대지디지 아니 대가는 이제 contro선데 다지 새 contro선데 뒤서는 요 contro선 직발에 사지치단 게든 섬레 들이 다다 contro선은 나는 땀도 도마시아 사티 레비신이 다트는 말이지 말인데 이제는 이제 발견된 마디 추 센터 사기 선대적인 목하는 사제에 라는 점도 마셔서 기미데 내가 고초선 차기요 싹바데 기니고 참을 때 창요리 삼바자 첨고송을 들이다다 야가지 기니고 대망고 소살 때는 까반들 전도 사지만 못다 탐지 하려야지 대다 sem 같이 하는 대바지를 대바를 이렇게 뜻을 하고 순남지가 세고 단지 처럼도 쉬어 생고만 대바지는 쉬어 뭐 세고만 니게지는 쉬어 대바다 니게니가 카양 골바코리마도 동지 바를 돌아 세르지 삼제들이 대바지에 삼제 뭐리
So the three jewels are the same in whichever vehicle we follow. And in terms of the precepts or the training and what is to be attained, the result temporarily, there are some slight differences. in terms of that there's a difference in the lower and the greater vehicles. Now, for example, in the greater vehicle, one recognizes the 3 kayas of the Buddha. And in the lower vehicle, one thinks more of the Buddha Shakyamuni as the person. So in any case, most people are familiar with our source of refuge. And so when we now repeat the refuge vow, in the beginning, first we take the refuge vow for as long as we live. And this verse mainly refers to the vows that you take with body and speech. And that could be anything. You can think it to yourself. It could be, for example, the 4 root vows, or including not drinking alcohol, which makes 5, or you can take 1 vow or 2 vows, any number of vows. You can think that to yourself. This is the vow I'm taking. So you don't have to tell that to anyone or even say it. You just think that to yourself. To save time. And so, first of all, there's this vow that you take until you die. So that refers to those vows of body and speech. And then, in terms of the duration, ideally you take that vow until you die. If you can't do that, you can also take that vow, those vows, for a year, or if you can't do that, then even for a month, or if you can't do that, even just for 24 hours, and the benefits are inconceivable. So in terms of, however, you can decide yourself how many vows you want to take and however long you want to take those vows, the duration. There's no need to tell anyone, also no one really can tell you what vows to take. It's really your own aspiration. And so you take this commitment, or you can take a vow, for example, on days where we do the Sojong vows, like the full moon day and so on. You can keep the vows on those days. Those vows are taken on those days in order to restore and purify. So whichever vow you take, the merit is really incredible. In our prayer, we also say, I will practice through the virtues such as generosity and so forth. So any kind of vow. And then when it comes to the Bodhisattva vow, there are some different supplications to repeat. But basically, the essence of that is the altruistic mind, that you take this vow for the benefit of all sentient beings, in terms of timing from now onward until you attain enlightenment. So the individual liberation vows, the refuge vow, now refers more to the physical and the verbal vows, and then the bodhisattva vow is a vow of bodhicitta. So most important is, in terms of body and speech, that whatever you do, you don't cause any harm towards others, and then throughout the 3 periods of day and 3 periods of the night, you remember bodhicitta, and you cultivate it, you accumulate bodhicitta. It is said that bodhicitta is easily lost, but also it is easily restored. For example, even the slightest moment of anger actually causes bodhicitta to decline. But it can be restored easily. For example, when anger arises and you instantly regret that and you remember bodhicitta again, then it is restored. It is said that bodhicitta, this bodhisattva vow, is like a golden garland, a golden chain. You can't really destroy the gold, that's the patience part, but you can unlink it, so you can break it momentarily, but you can easily fix it too. So that's like the bodhisattva vow, bodhicitta. It's broken easily, but it's easily restored. These are the repetitions that we will repeat. The words are quite clear. The refuge are the 3 jewels, which are always the same, the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And now today, since I am the one giving you the refuge vow and the bodhisattva vow, that teacher who gives you those vows, that spiritual teacher, should be seen as an embodiment of the 3 jewels. For example, with my body, I refrain from harming anyone, and therefore I'm a Sangha. And with my speech, I teach the Dharma, and the mind is the Buddha, because the mind is Buddha nature. So one should see that spiritual friend from whom one receives the vow as an embodiment of the three jewels. And in particular, the Sangha. You should think that all the Sangha are complete within that teacher. Then your mind will become vast. Then, for example, you think that it is quite incredible, the Sangha in this world. For example, in India nowadays, how many Sangha can gather together, or how many Buddhas appear in this time and age is incredible. So if you think in this way, your mind opens up and faith arises. And when faith arises, then the ice block of self-grasping is melting. So it melts in two ways, actually. When it is directed upwards towards the three jewels, it manifests as faith. And when it is directed towards sentient beings, then the ice block is melted through compassion. So actually, the essence of both is the same. Their nature is love. Difference is just that how it is directed, either to higher beings or to sentient beings.
ungursi 잡도 마셔 알아들이 사지 탑데 뛰어래지 디 탑데를 뛰니 팔 소소거든이 시락당 산속섬 리바당 이 철리당 요 말이지 대를 빼지는 거 요래 오 삼바다 니유르가 개와서 신티 제버테기 인증미지 내가 토리 자족 사지 고나 톱으로 요래 대화도 되죠. 그리고 저도 잡 말하리스 말하지들이 동데 그 잡대 정능이 말하리스 오 사마다 hin질레티 좀 사람이 봤대 하고는 이 사직이 용보시랍 사직이 저다서 당이 잡기도 쇼고 선지로 되리 뒤 강이 따지 않나 양 잡도 봐지 뒤 박차세는 사다 이런 거요래 배는 가시에는 냠도나 잡기 좋아하셔도 매니요 가시에는 라마 교실은 야 맞았다 쓰다로만이 다 작토리 잡기도 마셔 잡기도 마셔 자 빠서는 너는 거를 잡기도 마 뜻도 좋아하고서 요래다 작토리 줄이 로마 빈만 보리 내가 배나 봐 요래 이마다 벌상다고 삐지다 뒤에 쏘는 거 저디 삼모디 다시 이 잡지기 시합, 산지기 정보 시합 대리에서 세우는 잡참도 들리는 게 밤이 보는 게 대냐무는 양 잡다때 세는 뒤에서 그 깨와처럼 양단도 세들이 야다야던 저 그래서 산지고 도도리 다리도 마셔서 로박 차지 하장 쓰는 뭐 쓰는 거 저디 하래야리 되는 거 소나 앞에나 따뜻한 남바 주시는 거래 뒤는 잠도 마셔야 돼 하장 다시 뭐 사적인 행복 시랍들이 좋다더니 니디 인터타네 니디 파상네 주가로 상제들이 심치고 차르때 상제 시랍 주제 행복 상제들이 상 맞이와 심지 상제만 상 맞이와 갈그 맞이 다 다지 니디를 될 박차 유모범만 보고 잡들이 나가티도 봤다와 차대요 오, 뒤 리바닥이데 유모버 제체지동 자 다디의 상타로들이 사바다 니제고 요래 주 탐지의 행보지더니 다 사바다 hin제리 삼바다 저기 hin제리 hin제랑 신바된 도 사이베라甚至说到hin제 오면서 때라서 hin제 hin제를 뒤는 hin제 심리 되게 동대 대화될 거야 삼바다 저기 hin제들 진짜 파마니 모든 진짜 진조아지 삼바든 저 hin제들이 추지는 거 삼바든 hin제에서 도디는 뭐 교육이 딱 갖다 드리니 디바 제월에 단 잠벌는 게 추다를 정나서 걸어 그 탐지들이 삼진 받아봐래 강나 강저텔 대동바 체인진 적디는 코르데텔 체고리 적디는 되지 고요래 시럽진 답들 답을 남고 랑지 돈이 들어가라. 그래서 산초스 놓고 줘서 거를 강을 가르쳐 대동들이 니디나 이 리정로버 교육이 좀 사지가 들어가래. 대패에서 오고는 대바 자체 뭐 차는 요래 대바지 수남리 수남데 사운다그래 대자 사운데 주 신카 같이 자치야 답라 대자 사운 망하는 거래 대자에 조디 개신이서 대체 괜찮지 사제 주던 게 뉴스
So when we take the refuge vow, the Buddha just showed us the method, as we said, and if we apply this method, that is, if we do not forsake bodhicitta, it will not forsake us. And so in that sense, the refuge is undeceiving. It will not forsake you if you don't forsake it. So actually, it makes logical sense too. Now, as a result, if you hold on to it, then with certainty, it will always be there as your refuge and lead to temporary birth in the higher realms and ultimate enlightenment. So that's why we say, may beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So the three jewels are our trustworthy sources of refuge. And if you hold on to them, then they will hold on to you. They will not let go. And what it refers to, the thing that you hold on to, your refuge, is love and compassion. And also as a result of actions done with love and compassion, you experience happiness, and you will continue to experience happiness in all lifetimes. So that's trustworthy or undeceiving. Then in the refuge card it says, I take refuge in wisdom, the heart essence of the Buddha. So this wisdom within you, the Buddha within you, is that mind that thinks, I want to take the refuge vow. And the fact that you want that shows that you already have taken the refuge vow in a previous life. And that imprint is again awakened now. Some people, for example, they never develop a wish to take a refuge vow. And then there is others who are far away and they can't meet the teacher. For example, what we do here is we give refuge over the mail, and people send their hair clipping and their picture over the mail, and then we send them the refuge card. There's many disciples who do it that way because they really want to take the refuge vow, even though they're very far away. And actually those pictures that they send in, I keep them all together, displayed, and next to them I'm doing the smoke offering every day. That is that cause of merit that you bring with you. That's the heart essence of the Buddha, the wisdom, that the one that wants to take the refuge vow. And that imprint is in your mind, and it's just being awakened. And then sometimes we become unmindful again in our lives, but then again, when we meet a circumstance, past karma becomes awakened. And it will continue to become awakened from lifetime to lifetime. Every lifetime, that imprint will become awakened again. And then in every lifetime, you will develop more and more until you attain enlightenment. So the mere wish to take the refuge vow is really an incredible merit. It's quite amazing, actually, to have that wish, that you really want to take the refuge vow. So that's extremely precious. And that's the inner Buddha within you, the heart essence of the Buddha, your own wisdom. And it becomes actualized when it separates from all dualistic grasping. When all that becomes cleared away, then it attains enlightenment into the nature of the Dharmakaya, and wisdom is perfected. And so then, secondly, it says, I take refuge in love and compassion, the heart essence of the Dharma. So the Dharma is love and compassion. So why is it that we are not yet enlightened? It is because of our dualistic grasping at self and other, and a very strong habit of doing that. And these this has led to many afflictive emotions which obscure the mind just like clouds. There are 84,000 different afflictive emotions which are all rooted in self-grasping. The only way to purify that is love and compassion. Therefore, this is the heart essence of all Dharma practice. It is love and compassion. And specifically, it is the compassion that is infused with loving kindness. It's not the ordinary compassion. The ordinary compassion is related to attachment or desire. For example, when you see a beautiful, cute animal or a nice flower and so on, then you might develop some affection or compassion for it. But that's ordinary. So this is not that kind of compassion here. This compassion here is the compassion that is infused with loving kindness. And the way we develop this kind of compassion is by starting with our parents, remembering their kindness, developing a wish to repay their kindness. So that is the heart essence of the Dharma, love and compassion. And then thirdly, I take refuge in virtuous friends, the heart essence of companions. And as we mentioned that the other day, all the teachers, whether they are Dharma teachers or mundane teachers, all have inconceivable qualities. In fact, to me, they all are Buddha emanations because the Buddha appears in whichever way necessary to benefit sentient beings. And science, for example, is also necessary in order to ensure the well-being of the beings living in this world. And then for those with higher wisdom, the path of liberation is necessary. But all of these kind of teachers who show us that are necessary. So the Buddha appears in whichever way necessary to benefit sentient beings. And therefore, to me, even teachers of worldly fields of knowledge, all are Buddha emanations. And when you see it that way, really a vast sense of faith arises in you. And that's the root of merit. The more you of these seeds that you plant in a field, the more seeds later will grow from that. The more benefit, the more fruit will grow from that. So taking refuge in the virtuous companion or friend is the heart essence of companion, which is the Sangha. So these are the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha.
Mami chipur mami jalajur yido la mona tan yang yil te tabatri kocho ba de kocho so that na nangba saje ba yong do de chuji jakap de na wa yong do de jakap de di mi si chaso na di wang sa to tang yo de pe na America paso na ta jakap kala so na America jakap da ko jago pe te ni kocho so da ko jago yo re randona 지도는 되는 모나카라다 피우치고 대사를 메타바레들이 자세라는 소리만을 봐서 못하버래 트리셔나 탄토리다 대화기는 저거요래 네 남들 특징다오래 네 다들 남들 거니 지도네 또 남들이 야도고요래 그 사제게 남들도 곡대에서 제대로 막 남들 좀 대대레스 내가 남는 도는데 틀면서 그걸 천데 나니 소리만 나오래 들이다 지지제 kenije 방법에 소설가 대신 소위 parte ni base ni sancho sem o mate 지지제 전에는 저 안 그런 게 어떻게 하다 또 살리냐 정말 남자들 공부야 고요래 또 초초라래 이다만 것이야 진짜 아마도 사바는 패표 다소 소리담지 나쁘자로 고쳐서 나쁘자 무슨 나쁘자 사발해
So once you have then received the refuge vow, actually it is said that the merit from that will multiply anything virtuous that you do by like 100. For example, if you recite a single Mani mantra, it's like reciting 100 Mani mantras, so the benefit becomes multiplied. And then also, whatever prayer you make from that time on, it is made in the presence of the three jewels and therefore will be supported and accomplished. So when we take the refuge vow, it is like you are becoming a citizen of the Buddhist countries, like one country. And once you become a citizen of a country, along with that, you will receive all the citizenship rights. For example, when you become American citizen, you also receive an American passport and all the rights of an American. So it is just like that when you take refuge in the three jewels. So then whatever you do, whatever aspiration you make will become accomplished and will become, the merit of it will become vast. And so then, having taken the refuge vow, you receive the 37 practices, and that is like your passport for going to Devachen. After when you die, that's your passport that will bring you to the higher realms or Devachen. Then this refuge card that you will receive, that's your boarding pass or your airplane ticket. And so then above your crown, that's then kind of the airport gate. And Tara is sitting there as the pilot with the plane, waiting for you to board the plane. So when you die, the consciousness has to leave through the crown, which is why we clip a piece of hair from your crown, which opens the crown. Consciousness leaves from there and then goes into Tara's airplane. But then in order to go there, what you also have to do is observe the laws of that country. And that's again the 37 Bodhisattva practices. So next we will repeat the vow, and the first verse we repeat belongs to the individual liberation. So it's a vow that we take for as long as we live. And the second verse is a vow that we take for all lifetimes until we attain enlightenment, and that is related to the Bodhisattva vow. Then after that, you can come up to receive your hair clipped, get the hair clipped. If you have already done that, you don't have to come again. So you don't have to get your hair clipped again. You can still be here, of course. It's always good to listen to the teachings of the trainings and the practices again. But we want to make the best use of our time too. Now, so if you're completely new and if you had never had your hair clipped, then you are welcome to come up. Your hair will be kept in this pouch and will be under the protection of the three jewels, and I will always keep that hair. Yeah. So then please repeat. Noble One, please grant me your attention from this time on and for as long as I live. I, who am called, and say your name, go for refuge in the Buddha, who is supreme among two-legged beings. I go for refuge in the Dharma, which is supreme among those free of attachment. I go for refuge in the Sangha, which is supreme among assemblies, for as long as I live. Noble One, please accept me as a lay adherent to the threefold refuge, who observes a few precepts. Master, please grant me your attention from this time on and until the essence of enlightenment manifests. I, who am called, and say a name, go for refuge in the Buddha, who is supreme among two-legged beings. I go for refuge in the Dharma, which is supreme among those free of attachment. I go for refuge in the Sangha, which is supreme among assemblies, until the essence of enlightenment manifests. Master, please accept me as a lay adherent to the threefold refuge, who observes one or more of the 5 precepts. So next Rinpoche will say Tab Yin No, which means this is the method. So this is the method for you to attain liberation. So your response to that will be Lexo, which means excellent. The method was given by the Buddha. The Buddha said, I show you the path to liberation. Lexo. Now you have received the refuge vow. So this was the refuge vow. Next is the Bodhisattva vow. So please repeat. Just as those gone to bliss in former times gave rise to the mind of enlightenment and maintained the progressive training of the bodhisattvas in a like manner, I, for the benefit of wayfaring beings, give rise to bodhicitta and thus engage progressively in the trainings. Then I will cause all mother sentient beings, infinite as space, particularly enemies who despise me, obstructors who do harm, and those who hinder liberation and omniscience, to have happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly attain precious, unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. So this is great compassion. If you are able to cultivate compassion for those enemies who hate you, then that's a sign of great compassion. Please repeat. For that purpose, I will apply body, speech, and mind to virtue until enlightenment is attained. Until death, I will apply body, speech, and mind to virtue from now until this time tomorrow. I will apply body, speech, and mind to virtue. So Now we just took this vow, for example, saying that until I attain enlightenment. So until I attain enlightenment, I will hold on to love. And until I die, I practice virtue with body and speech mainly here. And the mind of bodhicitta goes on. So we take that until we die, or as we mentioned, for 24 hours. In fact, love, bodhicitta, is something we have to remember throughout the 6 periods of the day and night. The 3 periods of the day and the 3 periods of the night. At all times you should check, have I allowed bodhicitta to decline or not? And if you have, then recognize and confess that. For example, if you get a little bit angry, then immediately confess that. So each and every day, and that refers here to saying from now until this time tomorrow, each and every day in the morning, take this commitment again, and then in the evening, confess any transgressions. So that is what it means to remember it and to restore it throughout the 3 periods of day and night. So then please repeat. Now my lives will be fruitful, having obtained well a human existence. I have today taken birth in the lineage of the Buddhas and have now become a bodhisattva.
산지가 레요발라다 산지가 자와지네 다주 산지 자살 랩트그레스 니달랑가 공진가고 대사에서 시작로 니 스타트는 참제 페이퍼 뭐람데 칼레 동서들이 티시라
다디안 로라 디네 다 디스과 디 스트록스 맞아 디스과 타비노 디는라라
다사 좀서부터 톱스 산지는 좀 산초선 좀 충분 충롱도 우리 다 충만 되는 번처리 충분 충롱 산지 들이다가서 속종 세부 충롱으로 산초선 정말 롱타다 우리 산초선부터 봐 톱이로 다 톱송.
So next again, Rinpoche will say Tapino, which means this is the method. So now we have recognized that bodhicitta is precious and I will not forsake it. And so then when we respond with Lexo again, at that time we have received the bodhisattva vow then. And so as we just have said here in the supplication, we have then taken birth in the lineage of the Buddhas, which means the family. And from then onward, we have to engage in the Buddha's activities. So it is like we have arrived at this royal seat of the Buddha. And we should rejoice in that, and others rejoice in that. So it is just like the string of a mala. This bodhisattva vow, a mala string. The string is this bond of love. And it's not a physical bond, but it's a bond of a mind, the bond of the mind, of love. So before I come up for receiving the hair clipping, we will say Lexo after Rinpoche says Tapino. Then he can come up for hair clipping, and then we repeat the concluding prayers.
땡지 작전제요.
땡지 랍처래 말해. 땡다 타비노고 말해. 타비노.
랍처.
말해 거기서 렉솔람마선. 렉솔람마선.
렉소. 타비노. 자, 다랑가와 공진가와 공.
So now you can rejoice, and others will also rejoice. So then you can start coming up, and while you come up, repeat the concluding prayers.
Oh, yeah, all of those who have not received Equanimity before, please come. Do you want to do this? Or? No? Oops.
I think I'll do it too, right? So then please repeat. Now my lives will be fruitful, having obtained well a human existence. I have today taken birth in the lineage of the Buddhas and have now become a Bodhisattva. Now whatever I do, I will engage in actions that accord with this lineage. I will act so as not to sully this flawless, noble lineage. Today, in the presence of all the protectors I have called wayfaring beings to realize their enlightened potential. Until then, in order to please beings, I invite them as guests. Thus, you gods, demigods, and all others rejoice by the virtues accumulated in samsara and nirvana, in the three times, and by the intrinsic virtue, Mechikten Gompo's intention, the boy of Vajradhara, that is the inseparable union of the two truths in the mandala of primordial co-emergent mind be realized. May precious Supreme Bodhichitta arise, in whom it has not been generated. May that which has been generated not decline, but ever further increase. May the Bodhisattvas practice virtue with an exalted mind, seeking the welfare of beings. May whatever the protectors wish be accomplished in sentient beings, not lacking bodhicitta. May beings be inclined to the bodhisattva's conduct. May I be held by the Buddha's compassion, and may even obstructing activity be dispelled in all my rebirths. May I never be separated from sublime gurus, and always enjoy the glory of the Dharma, having completely perfected the qualities of the stages and paths. May I swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. May all the aspiration prayers for the purpose of wayfaring beings that have been made from great beneficent Vajradhara on down to the kind root Lama on up be swiftly accomplished through the virtuous accumulations in the past, present, and future by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and through this intrinsic basic of virtue, may all sentient beings and I swiftly attain precious, perfectly complete enlightenment. May the teachings of Drigungpa Ratnashri, the Master of interdependent abiding, the omniscient Lord of Dharma, who sees all objects of knowledge, be upheld through teaching, practice, learning, reflection, and meditation until the end of cyclic existence. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's good because it's good, right? Because you already started. Yeah, that's why I think it's almost. Sanction lam oh, you want to do that? Yeah. Yeah. So next we will do the prayer for excellent conduct in the blue prayer book. Yeah.
Okay, blue prayer book. And this is on page 52, page 52. The King of Noble Prayers, aspiring to the deeds of the excellent. Homage to ever youthful Manjushri. With purity of body, speech, and mind, I bow to all the heroic Buddhas of the past, present, and future, without exception, in every world and in all 10 directions. By the power of this aspiration of Samantabhadra, I bow with as many bodies as there are atoms in the world to all those victorious Buddhas manifest in my mind, and I pay homage to all of them. I conceive the entire realm of truth to be completely filled with the enlightened ones. On each atom, I imagine there to be as many Buddhas as atoms in the world, each Buddha surrounded by many bodhisattvas. I honor all these blissful lords, praising their perfections with all the sounds of various melodies, an ocean of endless praise. I offer to those heroic Buddhas the finest flowers, garland, music, and ointments, excellent canopies, choice lamps, and the best incense. I offer as well to those victorious ones the finest array of all the excellent things, the finest robes and fragrances and heaps of sweet-smelling powders, as high as Mount Meru. By the power of my faith in the deeds of Samantabhadra, I prostrate and present vast and unequaled offerings to each of the victorious Buddhas. I confess every type of wrong that I have done, in thought, word, or deed, while influenced by desire, anger, and ignorance. I rejoice in the meritorious deeds of all the Buddhas, as well as those performed by the Bodhisattvas, Bodhichitta Buddhas, Arhats, those who are in the path of training, those who need no more training, and by all sentient beings in the 10 directions. I entreat the enlightened protectors who have attained the detachment of Buddhahood and illuminate the worlds of the 10 directions to turn the peerless wheel of Dharma. With folded hands, I beseech those who intend to manifest the final nirvana to remain for as many aeons as there are atoms in all the worlds, for the benefit and happiness of all living beings. May whatever small amount of virtue I may have gained from prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, and beseeching to be dedicated to the attainment of perfect enlightenment. May I worship the Buddhas of the past and those now present in the worlds of the 10 directions. May those to come quickly fulfill their aspiration and reach Buddhahood by traversing the stages of enlightenment swiftly. May all the worlds of the 10 directions become extensively and completely pure. May it be filled with bodhisattvas and victorious Buddhas who proceed to the royal tree of enlightenment. May all living beings in the 10 directions always be happy and free of sickness. May they be endowed with favorable circumstances for achieving dharmic goals, and may their wishes be accomplished. May I remember my lives in all states of existence while in training for enlightenment. In all my successive births and deaths, may I always embrace religious life. May I follow all the victorious Buddhas and perfect all the deeds of Samantabhadra. Pure in morality without defect, may my conduct always be flawless. May I teach the Dharma in every tongue, in whatever sounds are understood by living beings, in the languages of the gods, nagas, demons, spirits, and human beings. May I steadfastly apply myself to the 6 perfections. May I never disregard my intention to attain enlightenment and completely remove whatever faults may obscure my path. May I be free from karma, emotional afflictions, and the influence of demons, like a lotus unsoiled by the mire, or like the sun and moon in a clear sky, so that I may proceed unhindered. Throughout all the lands and all the directions, may I relieve the sufferings of the lower realms. May I be able to bring happiness to and provide benefit for living beings. Fully accomplishing the activities of enlightenment, may I work in harmony with the needs of all beings. May I practice and demonstrate the deeds of Samantabhadra through all future aeons. May I always associate with those whose activities are similar to mine. May we act alike in thought, word, and deed, and may our aspirations be as one. May I always associate with spiritual friends who wish to help me and teach the deeds of Samantabhadra. May I never cause them pain or disappointment. May I always personally behold the victorious Buddhas, those guardians surrounded by bodhisattvas, without tiring. In all future aeons, may I always present them magnificent offerings. May I always uphold the Buddha's holy Dharma and illuminate the deeds of enlightenment. May I train in the practice of Samantabhadra in all future aeons. Through rebirth and all the states of existence, may I gather an endless store of merit and wisdom. May I become an inexhaustible treasure of all virtues, of method, wisdom, concentration, and liberation. May I always behold as many pure lands as there are atoms present in each world, with inconceivable Buddhas sitting in the midst of their bodhisattvas and performing the activities of enlightenment. In this way, may I be able to see everywhere, even on every mote of dust, countless Buddhas of the past, present, and future, limitless pure lands, and endless aeons. May I always heed the pure speech of the victorious Buddhas, which holds within each word the totality of the perfect Dharma, and an ocean of languages precisely suited to the needs of each being. May I possess the perfect intelligence to heed the endless melody of speech when the victorious Buddhas of the past, present, and future turn the wheel of Dharma. May I accomplish the Bodhisattva's practice of entering the past, present, and future in a fraction of a second. May I know in a single instant all that is encompassed in the duration of the 3 times. May I behold all heroic Buddhas of the past, present, and future in a single instant. May I always perform their activities through the power of liberation from illusion. May I perceive upon a single atom the perfect design of the pure realms of the past, present, and future. Thus may I enter into the realms of the victorious Buddhas in all directions. When the illuminators of the worlds of the future realize the stages of Buddhahood, turn the wheel and enter the profound peace of nirvana, may I always be in their presence. May I accomplish the perfect powers of enlightenment, the power of miraculous swiftness, the power of perfection of every spiritual path, the power of all virtuous qualities, the power of all pervasive loving kindness, the power of merit of every virtue, the power of all transcendent wisdom, and the power of perfect knowledge, method, and meditation. May the forces of karma be utterly purified, the power of passions utterly subdued, the power of demons utterly destroyed, the power of the deeds of Samantabhadra perfected. May I tirelessly perform the enlightened activities for an ocean of aeons, purifying an ocean of lands, liberating an ocean of beings, realizing an ocean of dharma, attaining an ocean of wisdom, perfecting an ocean of practice, accomplishing an ocean of aspirations, ceaselessly serving an ocean of Buddhas. May I completely fulfill all perfect aspirations to the enlightened activities of the victorious Buddhas of the 3 times, by attaining enlightenment according to the deeds of Samantabhadra. The eldest son of the victorious Buddhas is called Samantabhadra. I dedicate all these virtuous actions that my deeds may be like his. May my body, speech, mind, deeds, and environment always be pure. May I become equal to Samantabhadra in these excellent aspirations. May there be no limit to my activities. May there be no limit to my virtues. Through limitless perseverance, may I accomplish all miraculous deeds. The limit of living beings is like the limit of open space. May the limit of my aspirations be equal to the limit of their activities and passions. Whoever offers to the victorious Buddhas all the perfect joys of gods and men, and the infinite realms of the 10 directions adorned with jewels, for as many aeons as there are atoms in these realms, shall gain great merit. But whoever hears this greatest dedication prayer and is inspired by faith to intensely desire supreme enlightenment shall gain even higher and holier merit. Whoever recites the aspiration of Samantabhadra will never again endure hellish rebirth, will abandon all evil friends, and will soon behold Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light. They will gain all benefits, live in happiness, attain precious human rebirth, and soon become like Samantabhadra himself. Even those who in ignorance committed the 5 unredeemable sins will soon be completely purified by reciting this aspiration of Samantabhadra. They will achieve perfect wisdom, a radiant countenance, beautiful form, auspicious physical marks, and a noble birth. Profane and devilish being will not trouble them, and they will be honored in the 3 realms. They will quickly reach the tree of enlightenment and reside there to benefit all beings. As enlightened Buddhas, they will turn the wheel of Dharma, taming the demonic hosts. Whoever preserves, teaches, or recites this aspiration of Samantabhadra shall ultimately gain perfect Buddhahood. May none despair of complete enlightenment. In whatever way valiant Manjushri and Samantabhadra know how to transfer merit, so do I dedicate all of my own virtues that I might train to be like them. Since dedication is praised as supreme by the victorious Buddhas of the 3 times, I dedicate all these roots of virtue to accomplishing the deeds of Samantabhadra. At the moment of my death, may all my obscurations be removed, that I may behold Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light, and go to Sukhavati, the pure land of perfect bliss. In that blissful land, may I completely fulfill all these aspirations and benefit all beings as long as the universe remains. Joyful there in that blessed assembly of the Buddha, may I be reborn like the holy ones from an exquisite lotus, and may the Buddha Amitabha himself foretell my own enlightenment. May I thereafter emanate endlessly through the power of perfect wisdom to accomplish countless benefits for living beings in all the 10 directions. Through whatever small virtues I have gathered by reciting this aspiration of Samantabhadra, may all the virtuous aspirations of living beings be accomplished in a single moment. Through the boundless merit gained by dedicating these aspirations of Samantabhadra, may countless beings drowning in the torrent of suffering reach the stage of Amitabha. May this greatest of dedication prayers benefit countless living beings. May reciting this ornament of Samantabhadra release all beings from the suffering of the lower realms.
대통령의 문화를 또 어떻게 다다 잡기도 봐 토요일 나게 잡기도 봐도 톱니 기록가에 와서말 대박 봐죠 잡을 기록되는 세 피바예요레스 기록된 나는 그래도 사바는 hin지레스 대소박 나고 자고레스 제일 기록가에는 나도 깨자만 보시에는 타토도 다도도 가시도 됐다고 남바도 마음 손은 가려고 산적심 저를 못 제시해 근데 강성은 없다 산적심 너도 대하고서는 일로막 가리니지 가축 가리는 용 다가지 담지 양이제야 통고 너무 많아 때문에 물람들 대도 방법을 물람들 나도 물람 뛰고 땅들은 물람 뛰고 그 용띠 다다 요래도 초과고 말이야 물람 뛰고 다지 고아야 버리니 대지는 우리들이 잡도 뭐한테 좀 책책 동시소나 나와 사지부터 하고야 요에 뭐람자 들이 주로 소리가 참을 때 봐요 들이 로마를 거들지 너나 책지도 달 거야 걸리 가리 로리티도 다디 시바체 그다음 사주 뭐나데다 담지 기침을 요래지 들이 담이도 바쁘도록 봐 랑게 들이 삼재상 맞다나 들이 대화를 딴 거 말해야지.
So now we have received the refuge vow, and now having received this vow also means that you should develop faith and respect, a pure view towards all the other religions in the world. Also, that is because their inner meaning, what they really say, is one and the same. And that is to cultivate love and compassion and to protect that with patience. So even though a lot of things are being said, the inner meaning is ultimately one single thing. Even though there are many words also in Buddhism, what is that one thing that we really talk about? It is the precious Bodhichitta. So that's really the essence. And if you understand this single essence, then actually whatever you practice, whatever Lama you follow, whatever teaching you receive, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily mean when you practice that you have to do a certain yidam, deity, or sadhana and so on. Actually, you can just recite those aspiration prayers like the one we just did. If you just read those prayers and think about their meaning, the meaning of those words, actually that's an incredible quality. it's not necessarily, it's not really necessary that you always arrange really vast offerings and all kinds of things. Actually, you can just read these prayers, like the aspiration prayer for excellent conduct. And if you just understand that, for example, you just one line from within there, you have gained an understanding of the Buddhist view. And so then have no bias towards any religion. Treat them all with a pure view and respect. And also engage in discussion with other disciples, read these prayers together, and really think about, actually it's important to think about the words of those prayers. Whatever you read, actually, you should think about the meaning of those words in that prayer. For example, the Samantabhadra prayer or the prayer for excellent conduct. These are all very important. So now you have perfectly received the refuge vow. And if you don't give it up, it will not give up you. So you will proceed from happiness to happiness. If you don't give up happiness, happiness will not give up you.
Döpe yung de linsa chadang ra de chatam je dang si ban pe de gang la xin cha je mo go den cha la ma ja se lang ni so de nan döpe yung jing long je ya de je chok yo de ji nan ni ha jeng de xin ba jian la de je cha ba xin ba de de chu ta chen de xin an no go yo ben la ta ma qin me ta je ta ma na bo de xin song ne这顶多没出去朋友个人，没这个样嘛，在家看东西，他妈那不听没得你，都老找这个的话，我第一到人，第一到心态个强冲上去，强冲了的你，就把到从下着我了，到强冲的嘛我要的，心中的得着我这个要的，对这些人切的就不嘛的，这什么的呢？都用的超过心把切过切上的有嘛的，对我银行上的，这一大个他妈这里下用我要的。这真是呐，这真是差多，这是学堂的都你们啊，而别觉得这个人到底吃过药当去了，对哦，我这上面没让他说，都往上面都会有点浪肚子，我这还叫我的时候下午大些当了哦，我们忙啊，说你今年那啥样我都当然搞个了哇，现在现在搞个太难进，看来这不满意，我让个生活上面的，因为我搞的小气了。这样的种的传了这里用我的马那这个要用我种的那个种他都这什么个种叫什么种的用我种的种样的人都真是这样这刚新吧有我的路通说
So then in the 37 practices, we come to number 21, which is to take attachment as the path. It says, sensory pleasures are like salt water. The more you drink, the greater your thirst. Abandon at once all things that give rise to clinging attachment. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So in general, it is said that there's nothing wrong with enjoying any of the 5 sense pleasures, but we should not develop this strong attachment to these. Because when we become very attached, then in the end, in this and future lives, it will cause a lot of harm. For example, some people smoke or take drugs to the point where they can't stop doing that, so they become addicted. And even in a mundane sense, they are sort of expelled from society. They're often not even considered like a person, often more like an animal. So you should think about it. And also drinking alcohol, for example. People, for example, by drinking a lot of alcohol, destroy their livers, and even if it comes to their death, they still won't stop because they're addicted. So that's the fault of clinging attachment, addiction. And it's not just in this life. You don't just have this life. It will be carried on beyond this life. So if now you are very attached to any of the 5 sense pleasures, then later, from that clinging attachment, the appearance of the hungry spirit realm will become manifest. Attachment leads to stinginess, so greed, and that leads to jealousy, and that leads to hatred in the end. And this is how the 5 afflictive emotions arise in stages, starting with the attachment. In the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when attachment arises, you don't have to abandon it, but you have to recognize. For example, when this feeling arises of, I really need that, by any means I need that, then you have to be mindful. For example, you really want to eat something sweet. So nowadays we know that it leads to diabetes. That's why scientists say you shouldn't eat it, not too much of it. And it's not just about food. Whichever of the afflictive emotions is the strongest in you, you have to really recognize its fault again and again, and overcome it in this way, because these afflictive emotions cause harm temporarily and ultimately. Think about the harm that they cause just in this life and also in all future lifetimes, the harm that is caused by the afflictions. So therefore it is said, you should give up whatever you are attached to.
사도타와 탑제달라 되는 거예요. 저들 나와 탐제 랑게 셈지. 선은 적디 남게 셈지 탐제 체보실 셈지요레지. 셈랑우로 차디요레. 셈랑우데 강에 셈랑우도 없는도 누구니가 각가도 없잖아. 집중을 그 레당 박차가 선은 적디 장미 박차온 거래. 집중 박차가 나 아메리카 메시아니 아메리카 롱반들이 라비 있으면 사용을 요래 롱반 통과 띠띠르띠는 남카를 좀 받다 라비가 선은 적디 좀 주의해서 박차가 차오는 나한테 세지 가자 게티기래다 박차들 그 감정도 적기 좀 매다 들어올라서 봐 라과라더니 좋아 최드시는 양반들 그 레다 쓰는 거 만나러 왔더니 zorg zorg zelekada kelje zoshi materiani tinule ta tawre te tawre chiboche da ko kha ko re da kanza pinju ni pisu nya ta o ta nga ni le simi ka ka re ni re la le te ba o kam ta zo tama ya tikpa re se lu tikpa chi da ni re ti ta da ma da yo pomo ke se ba yo re ta nan sem ko ja na certainement sem sem da 막 공진이지 나다리지 공 나다리 코진이지 그 다지 진리에서 가도 다지 할라들이 이거는 sem 다들 진리는 뭐 진실될 때는 sem 그런 때 강래 남도 잡타만 못 참나야 남도 잡타만 참나지 남도 대 한국이 시바 남시이지 지금 봐도 말이 나버시바지 남발 시바데 은혜도 세메지 남발 시바데 납치 가래가 그래 사실 서로 열전 남바 다지니 다 서로 여기 나와는 배는 셴들랑 자송사로 오늘까 보리 살걸 막고 되는 다들 판천이 되니서 다지니 느끼게 되라서 니들이 무보리 소리 뒤박차도 토고 차는 일단 차이도 저러고 차요래 대단하더니 가자니 피준이 오니 샘시와도 주발에 샘대한 뒤스름도 똑바 다 가래 때는 시바사고 가지를 고치버려 때 시바사고 때는 밤에 오다 시바대로 저거도시 어디 다 상태를 세서 사제시 받에 내가 토리 되어 뭐 작아져 가래 다속 사제시 받에 상태를 나딘 로는 다 다른 시 하나지 단지는 유무가 통다 코라지도서 하람서 코라 다 세드 가자 빈진지 sem직해지 희바디 싸워지게 싸워 그래 만족을 때는 또 말이 또봐 또장 가서 직장만 남파단지 야 남파 또 말이 들으라고 양디 희바 싸워요 하고 또 말이 상고 희바를 대라 싸워 또 말이래 생각 탈투로 싸동이래서 근데 이들 따고 살로나도 딱 했다나 사통 공사통 이런 거 사통 고아야 되는 랑들이 또 다고 된 바지들이 정말 생기지도 좀비 생고 남치들이 했지 자자자 남치들이 했지 남치 그런 거 할때는 다 요미 그냥 지도 보면 되지 맨다도 보면 되지 근데 오면 다 와서 이렇게 보통 공을 배선 거예요 대다고 나와 생도 다 제들 당연히 대다서 세고지도 대하고는 하고 그러지.
The next verse, number 22, is the verse on the ultimate truth. It says, "The way things appear is your own mind. Mind itself primordially transcends fabricated extremes. Knowing just this, do not create concepts of subject and object. This is the way of a bodhisattva." So this is the ultimate truth, and that's a very important verse. It's about the view of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. So the way things appear, whatever appears, the entire outer universe and all the sentient beings within that universe, whatever appears is created by the mind. It is a reflection of the mind. So we think that whatever appears is real and exists in a concrete way, and we think that the universe is separate from the sentient beings. So the way we perceive things is first in a collective way. There is the collective karmic imprints which have created this appearance of the outer world, the universe. So this collective imprint, for example, is that you think, I am an American. So this concept naturally arises in your mind. Collective because all Americans think that. It's collective, a collective imprint. So this is how it appears to us. And these concepts are like clouds obscuring the sky. So this is how the mind has naturally created the entire universe and all sentient beings. All sentient beings on the inner level have their own individual karmas and habitual imprints, and due to that they appear in a great variety of ways. For example, with a body or without a body. Some are very large like a mountain, some are very small like a water particle. All the sentient beings in the three realms appear in these diverse ways. That is because they have their own individual, very particular karma and merit. And that leads to an unmistaken appearance. And that is something that no one can fabricate. No matter how skilled science might become, they couldn't make that, these fine workings of karma. So now when we speak of this in a more larger sense, it's more difficult to understand. We can also just think about two people, for example. When you look at each other, then first of all you think that we are two different people. What you're looking at are two different bodies. So if you just look at the body even, the body might look different, but it's still essentially the same. It's composed of the same matter. So there's a slight difference maybe in the shape and so on, but it's the same thing, the body. So it's the same, and these two are the same. And then we look at the mind, and how you see it is, that's me, and over there, that's him. This me is the self, and he is the other. So then if you really look closely, where is the self, where is the other? And you won't find it at all. So if you sustain mindfulness, you see that even if thousands of thoughts rise up in your mind, there is only one awareness that recognizes all of these thoughts. This is the consciousness. The consciousness is your mind. And the reason why the Buddha called it the consciousness, so literally in Tibetan it means like it's the one that that discerns outer objects. That's the consciousness, literally. It perceives a duality of self and other. It is just like the reflection from a crystal, the rainbow light emerging from a crystal, the many different colors. So we are confused by the perception that these appearances manifesting from the mind are separate from us. We believe that they are the outer universe and the sentient beings all separately existing from us. And so because we believe that this is a reality, this belief is a very strong imprint. It's a very thick imprint. It's like ice continuing to freeze into more ice. So it's a constant solidification of ice. So actually, if you look at those two people, their mind is one and the same. When you look at your own mind, and all these thoughts after 3 times come to a cessation, what still remains is awareness, clear awareness. So first, you only gain certainty in that. You recognize this clear awareness that is always there, no matter how many thoughts arise. And it is this awareness, what it must be aware of, what it must hold on to, is love. Not recognizing that that is the only cause of happiness in a temporary and ultimate sense. And if that awareness follows this concept of me, then many afflictive emotions will arise and it creates samsara. So this is how we might gain an understanding. So actually, when you look at self and other are really one and the same. Your clear awareness is one and the same. So you can't say that it's there. It's not really actually there. It's not an existing thing. It's empty. There's nothing really there. It's just like space. But then if you say it's just like empty space, there still is something there that is clear and knowing. There's an awareness that is there, that is conscious of things. And that is what we call the clarity. So the nature of that clarity is emptiness. So that is what we call clarity and emptiness. This is the view, the nature of the mind, that you should look at over and over again. And you realize that my empty clarity and his empty clarity are one and the same. There is really no delineation between our empty clarities. There's just one empty clarity. And that's the ultimate truth, that realizes that all is a creation of the mind. That is why that is what we refer to as the consciousness. The one who creates everything is the consciousness. And so you gain like a kind of 100% certainty in that when you see that, when you see its essence. So when you see its essence, it is something that can neither said to be existing nor can it said to be non-existing. It cannot be given any name. It cannot be called anything. And that is the meaning of the middle way, or Madhyamaka. And also Khenpo Tenzin can teach more on that. So this verse here resolves that appearances are one's own mind. This is the point to be understood here.
Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. 다당서 만들어 보고서 빠들이 피바치고도 강리는 그땅 나가자고 잡을 쪽지 알아서 지내저거더니 콘디니어 잡대요래 죽어가는 잡대요 롱거가는 참아주고 롱거도 죽어거더니 노를 죽을 양 잡대요 이제 무슨 좀다 할 거들이 다 지네들 롱왜 봐서 나가 간데 잡대요래 들이 자가만 담이 지네들 말이지 지금 라그 고토 들어나더니 얘네들 동방내에 소시 쏘아들은 고토들네 얘네들 동방 제사오 근데 동방대요 사람들이 우리 반동을 딱바로 요한들이 좋아요래 우리 지네들 용도 하고 무슨 파지로 뭐 철지네들 이제 그 요말 제레적죠 마다리 뒤미 대대에 지네들 빠들 배핀보래 지네들 동대 보리 두개 집어라도 어디 저송지가 비중아 대더니 마소고 쉣 도서들이 대양전당 선업다기 냠도 만년바요래 반들이 방내리 이제 너무 하자 통 많이 봐 야고요래지 마디 바마 뭐 피오래 그만서 소리요래 되게 막 그러면
So here in the text, in the beginning, there is this image of Chenrezig, this round image, and this image of Chenrezig is actually very beneficial for when we are reciting the Mani mantra. So what it represents is his all-pervasive nature, that he pervades all the reaches of space. He pervades all of samsara and nirvana. That's the Dharmakaya. And also the Sambhogakayas and the Nirmanakayas pervade the 6 realms of samsara. Actually, his nature is beyond coming and going. This space-pervading nature is beyond coming and going. And all of the stars in the sky are really the eyes of Chenrezig, always looking upon us. And also at the center of this image is Chenrezig's face that was added to it, because when we see his face very clearly, then a special feeling arises again of his true nature that is beyond coming and going. We remember his qualities. Actually, he never forgets about us. It is just that we sometimes forget. But actually, the name Chenrezig itself actually, Zig means to see. So there is never a time where he doesn't see. At all times, he looks upon us. And this face in the center, this image, is taken from the self-arisen, fivefold self-arisen, great compassionate one that was that existed in Lhasa since the time of Songtsen Gampo, the king, until it was demolished by the communist rule. but then again it was kind of restored. We could restore the image. We could retain the image of his face, and many images have been made. We printed many different pictures of this particular image of his face, and nowadays not so much, but in the old days I was always passing out these little cards that had this image of Chenrezig's face on it, this one in the center here.
생각이 무덕선 같이 싫었더니 돈이 통고요래 대통은 이번지만 통대원 들었더니 차단 건 나버터가 찌르게 레사 말에 레사들이 박차지게 양도하러 나왔던 샤용 거래 매장아 양 누리서 와미가 지는 연구요래 들이 이아시에마지 다 어느 세군나는 저 세군진이 하고고는 학원 가서 사실 직접 마상더니 사자님을 그냥 말씀라도 칠때 있어 직접 마상 셈을 칠때 되는 생각을 직접 마상 셈을 때는 직접 마상 셈들었더니 싸워 또마 집은 남편이 차대요 그래서 학고를 단적 정지 뒤가는 내 뒤가는 뒤바 터서 가지는 라완지들 대통은 이 나도 좋아 대화 동에 가르 샤르마더니 되게 시작했고요. 이 공자이는 나도 다시 쳐다랍게들레스. 이 나도 라바상지 매사 보신다그레스. 드링을 통담 대파 톱대 기억마san들 세우대로 대도를 톱대 따위에 데라 바로 좀 대외에 대니치는 중진 세마나 일만 되죠. 서비스용의 열 남자베센데 제와치 데리세 말 직접 마상을 호따와데 하고는 되는 데네 야잖아. 되지야레스. 그냥 무슨 라드치라스. 심내로 문제지 좀 대사를 해서 다른 돌도 봐시나 같은 돌에
So verse number 22 speaks about the ultimate truth. It says, fabricated extremes. It transcends fabricated extremes. So that is, for example, a fabricated extreme is our belief in the true existence of appearances, and then our labels about them. So we say that this really exists. The body and the mind is really here, really exists. However, in the end, it is impermanent and will just turn into dust. This entire universe and all sentient beings within are confused about reality. And so then there is others who think that nothing exists. When they look at the mind, they think that there is no mind, there is nothing. So some intelligent ones think that they have seen emptiness. So they might have an understanding of that, but then still there is this imprint of thoughts, attachment and aversion, ignorance. And as they continue to arise, one continues to accumulate karma, which creates karmic imprints, which again leads to the appearances of the 6 realms of samsara. So if you think that nothing exists, then again you're wrong, because karma is still unfailing and it will ripen. So both of these views are mistaken. And so how did the Buddha explain it when he spoke about the nature of the mind? He said that don't think about anything at all. In Mahamudra, it says, without a single thought, look decisively at the true nature of the mind. So without a single thought in the mind, look at the mind directly. And there is emptiness. like space. It is an experience of space. And then this space-like nature is clearly known. You know that it is empty like space. That is clarity and emptiness. And then what needs to be done is, having recognized that, you need to gain stability in sustaining that state. So you are free to always stay within that state. And if you always sustain that state, that recognition, then whatever thoughts arise, and happy thoughts and sad thoughts, whatever arises, you will be able to overcome it, let it go. Then when you really stay in a state of meditation, all thoughts become like waves on water. Or the coarse thoughts become like wood being consumed by fire. And that is the power of the ultimate nature of the mind. Or in the Vajrayana, it is referred to attaining the fortress of the view. And so it says, do not create concepts of subject and object. So when the outer objects come into contact with the inner grasping mind, then the mind thinks, oh, this is, when they see an object, oh, that's that, and this is that. So don't think anything at all. Without a single thought, just rest within the natural state of the mind, and that is sufficient. So without a single thought, look decisively at the nature of the mind. So in brief, that is the actual mind.
이동 열당 최바는 야제도 자송 주게를 집안은 대벌 못다 신차봉 자세라는 용 이동 열을 척박제를 가면 라상들이 이복하래 변 메소드라 셔도 가는데 대단하다 하정 가오면서 초와지 못 가서 어디 못다바 돈도 있으면 다리 초와 대화장 요라 메소드 신차배 봐 어디 도고자로 고자주면 거기다 봐야지 들어가지고 거기에 못다 봐야지 세계적으로 못하면 난 생각이나 별다다 삼바다니 이제 라서부터 가려는 자꾸 열 탐지들이 대화에 못다 봐야지 동아에 못다 봐야지 변 세대 대화다 동에서 나고 좀 많다고 그랬지 대배지질나 때려 망바로 됐다더라 그랬지 망바 잡는 삼로다나 대화에 못다 봐 동아에 못다 봐서 들이 뒤쪽으로 못다 봐래 삼지 지고 삼모 당고 말이 소화지 마사지 못다 봐야지 못다 봐 람스키나 들이 쇼킹 버티면 저 차오구나 잘못돼 잡는 양잡고 차로 하장 잘못 차로하지는 저때서 잡는 양처럼 차 차고 때도 쓰도 당성으로 돼 그냥 간판하나 당문으로 차로던 거에 차오가 장어던 거 빼대는 게 sempre 당성으로 돼래 당부심 되고 그랬더니 대회는 차관제도 남쳐버렸어 차박하면 따박진 거였어.
And then, verse number 23, when you come across things that attract you, like beautiful rainbows in summertime, do not regard them as real and abandon clinging attachment. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So this is an instruction as to how to practice when a desirable sense object appears. So when that appears, when attachment arises, one must apply the antidote immediately. For example, there's this beautiful flower that you like very much, and in that moment, you have to remember impermanence. Without thinking anything else, you just remember that now it is there, and for as long as it is there, I can hold on to it, but it will change. It is impermanent. It will not always stay. So this is how you think with regard to outer objects. Regarding the inner mind, there are various thoughts of love and compassion and so on that arise, for example, towards our friends and so on. and then there's this attachment that stays in the mind. So again, remember impermanence. Everything is impermanent. Happiness is impermanent, suffering is also impermanent. Happiness and suffering are both like clouds in the sky. So we think about what happened in the past and what will happen in the future. All the happiness and pains that will come, all of that is impermanence. So when a circumstance arises that causes these feelings to arise, and the moment this feeling arises, you don't even have to think too much about how it is, like what's its nature and is impermanent and so on. Just remember impermanence in that moment and nothing else. And that is just like when there is a little bit of ice and then there's hot water arising, then that is melting. But then when it gets a little bit cold again, it freezes again. So what we need is a kind of like a moderation. Equanimity in terms of whatever arises. It is just like when it's cold, you turn on the heater, and when it's hot, you turn on the cooler. So you kind of try to find a balance and just the right measure of temperature. So in a similar way, you don't overextend that thought, but you more remain in a state of equanimity that just simply recognizes the impermanent nature of everything. So this is how we take desire and attachment as the path, how we practice with it. So when it arises, in brief, we have to remember impermanence.
Dungi naso malam pashatarch, tayang dungi tu chapayong kani, jatang dela, ranchu samdir dungi chong haji jigo boyore. 다지 졌던 치나 등이 대삼 치 등은 소와 죽을 나서 종류들 때 기본 통보요래 변은 대리진이 등에 대한 감이 등에 나서 말람 퍼센트아스 년가 그 등하다 지금 말람 그 가서 등에지 윤이 정말도 찌와리 생각도는 등에 진이 되나 갑들을 드니 다지 초와의 용거래 양당한테 좀 해지 섬지는 저희들 마진 자잖아. 동에서 남도에 동에 얘는 않고 예를 들면 라면 동행 종기저도 왜 강리 레그 걸어서 봤다는데 뉴모 바랑기스 말이지. 얘는한테 강 마삼 타기 따따따도 타기 방 대화도 동행이가 따라는 거는 저대 탑 파야잖아. 들이 쳐달라는 미로 그래서 하고 탑들이 유목이 실리저지 대화도 동해 탐지 남도에 때문에 배송발에 코른치니 이제 다다르지 코아데 데리는 문제인지요 말이지 이제 다 남도에 남도에서요래지 남도는 지냐 양도 동해서 오래지 들까 맞지 샤워를 파 요거 파 야전들이 쳐달라는 미터 바테를 말안베셨다 나버리는 동네 됐다고 요리지 맞죠 가리시고 빼대 했다고 삼을 같이 땅 그도서 뭐도 됐다고 송 나버리는 동네지나 그냥 나도 총들로 요리
Then the next verse then says 24, all suffering is like the death of your child in a dream. How exhausting it is to hold illusory appearances as real. Therefore, when you meet with difficult circumstances, see them as illusory. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So this then is about how to deal with very difficult circumstances. And so often if we only look at ourselves and only think about our own problems, then the slightest problem will appear very like a very heavy problem. And that is because the stronger one's self-grasping, the stronger will be one's suffering. And then just the slightest sensation of physical pain, for example, is seen as the greatest suffering. So So such a person then should think in this way. All this suffering is like the death of a child in one's dream. Now, actually, it's all the same. What we experience in the waking state, all of our problems, and the suffering that we might experience when we dream at night is actually basically the same. There's just a difference in duration, maybe. But the point is that if you cling to the suffering thought, you will experience suffering. And if you keep thinking about it over and over again, you will continue to experience suffering over and over again. So without thinking anything at all, if you just let it be, then there also is no suffering. Because suffering is just a thought. So the way to overcome it is, first of all, think about karma and recognize that it's all created by my own afflictive emotions. And then ideally, if you have understood the view, then don't think anything at all and just recognize everything, happiness and suffering, it all is just a thought. And no matter what arises, you will sustain the natural state of the mind and just allow all arising to dissipate like a wave on water. So this is the special skillful means of the secret mantra, how we transform afflictive emotions into primordial wisdom. So it's all a thought. Happiness and suffering both are just thoughts. Milarepa also said that actually samsara, if you ask about the characteristics of samsara, samsara has no basis and no root. And so we cannot say in terms of samsara that this is it or this is not it. If you want to find one root of samsara, then it is thought. It is all created by one's thoughts. And if we keep clinging at our thoughts, then again and again these thoughts will just continue to create more suffering. So instead of clinging to our thoughts and keep thinking about things, don't think about anything at all, and whatever arises, just let it be. Don't follow it, and it will disappear just like a wave on water. And you will see all arising as dream-like by nature, like the death of a child in a dream. So then also, when you experience suffering, one reflection on the relative level is to think that even though I have this problem, what about the problems and the suffering of all the beings in this world? Actually, compared to that, my suffering is really nothing. And so if you think in this way, it's the suffering of all the other beings in the world, then also your own suffering will decrease.
출발다와 자신은 출치와데 공리 대화를 심바 자삼 체내가 근데 누구는 토와테리 시안 좀 때문인데 대회 그만나더니 대화 토와테리 심바 마치티 랑그 시합 지신 somna 근데 누구는 토와테 똑같이 좀 미토를 생부터도 똑같이 있다는 거지 네가 됐더니 나만 도는데 기독이야 체면을 남아로 듣지 봐야 돼 따라한 거들이 대화 그 프리마다 동의가 너무 집에서 따라하는 거랑 조선들이 제발 요 말이지 당 조하고 동의들 조하고래 동의 프린다 그요 대화들이 신용 거래 대화 그 누그래 동의가 조하고요 심사고 차대요 해서.
So this is related to what we just mentioned before, this confusion that we end up with. And so the point of equalizing it is that actually if your attachment to pleasant experiences is very strong, then your experience of suffering will be just as strong. They are in direct proportion. And that is why do not be attached to this feeling, this experience of bliss, but sustain awareness. If you are able to sustain awareness in a moment of great bliss and joy, then you will also be able to let go of a suffering experience. And so this is how happiness and suffering are one and the same. If you are attached to happiness, you will also experience a more intense feeling of suffering on the other hand. That is why it is said, happiness and suffering are not different. This is the perfect instruction. So, therefore, in the face of bliss and happiness, you don't get excited and feel it's so good. And also, you are not really negatively affected, harmed by any suffering. So they become equal. And in this way, they are actually liberated easily. And in fact, attachment to bliss is something that we can liberate easily. We recognize the fault that it causes, and when you recognize that, the mind is very clear.
강한 기술은 제 14살 때는 대도는 초아 맞지 남상 지나도 샤르는 옷이 바다송선은 많죠 되는 저바쇼를 되는 진이게 들으시는 초아쇼처럼 되는 처지 대회는 되니 처지 맞아 가는 나도 초아지 되니 담을지와도 무시고 그래 그 무시는 되니 저바지 되는 저바 저한테 미만으로 그랬더니 남칼 좀 찍다 매봐 저거는 되는데 만들었더니 유무 뭐 보고 예체적 동대 저와 찍 저봐서 말이 저봐서 못 따와면서 심사고 저도 거야 되게 저봐 지선 당로에 저와로 지선 당 저봐 지선 당
So then there's this term you mentioned before, confusion, and that is actually very meaningful too, a very important term. Now, what is this confusion? So a feeling arises, a very subtle feeling begins to arise, and then it grows stronger and you follow it, and that is the confusion. A thought arises, when a thought arises, how we should practice with it so we don't become confused. A thought arises and you grasp that thought immediately with clear awareness without following the thought. The moment it arises, you recognize it. Then you will not become confused. You will not run into delusion. Delusion or confusion is when you give way to this feeling that is generated by the thought and you just follow it. That is the confusion. So it comes from the clinging to the thoughts. So first the thought arises, a feeling arises, and that is where it needs to be recognized. And when you recognize it, it will disappear. And then the mind becomes like the sky that is free of any clouds. Otherwise, any of the 84,000 afflictive emotions arises. But basically, what they all come down to, the confusion that they generate, is the grasping at them. And therefore it is said, the one who grasps does not hold the view. Because when you grasp, your mind becomes unclear. An unclear mind follows confusion. Following confusion means basically giving way to or following your feelings.
That's I told you, really don't thank you. That's all you want to do. Good. There's a link that I mean, the bottom of just is don't not it down the scenario, taking you for it. It's also in that the body, sending you Shinkoman and Chupa, Homan, the Bason. Send out no long to the nuclear, no long to the dots on the sort of big guy, that is not that is Shingi or Oman, they would do better. The Lord they take to me to the tango, to local Tata, your better. Tell the woman by your marriage, chalks me. 차대 대회는 파도제다 신나요. 너는 이제마다 강용 주바지마다 신내니 뭐 신다지 신간 신나지 뭐 그런 민가리들은 또 똑같이 털나한테지 촉시요 말이지. 배사 사야 잘면 다음 배사고 요래되나 대로래지. 파도를 동에 요래 대회는지 게을데 상첨도 배 상첨들은 상주가리 상고도 나지 파 장고도 나지지로데 제 장고는 인핑으로 쳐고도 인핑으로 빼는 잘라도 갈아도 나가서는 나가서도 나가서는 거도 늘 때서 되면 공신공은 추가하면 공조선 추상 그냥 인핑으로 이니 버때 만나리베 점바 직접 떠오르면은 돈이 틀어 갈 잡아통시 나 가라니는 때마다 오면은 심지도로 속차를 받아 동거리지 따지 생보다 지금 파동만 되거든요 선생님 저런 자타고 정말 때문에 동막이 유진이들이 생기시나 인생들 팽이거래 다중 선택을 느껴요 때문에 문사제 담지라고 사제게 딱 버티어가자 마다 버티어가자 요까지 사제게 점비 팔아서 맛 대다와 너무 뭐 촉시고 팔아서 맛 촉을 사제게 들이 까먹었지는 따뜻한 상제에 좀 잠불는 것들이 따뜻한 무슨 사제게 만져와 마샬았다고 요한테 이 팔아서 맛 촉을 용띠에 때로 토마들이 단지게 이거라 되게 봐서 와래 단지도 쓰는 임벌
Then verse number 25, when even one's body must be given up when aspiring for enlightenment, what need is there to mention material things? Therefore, practice generosity without hope of reward or karmic results. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So generosity is an antidote to self-grasping. So from self-grasping arises stinginess, and this is the antidote to that. Also, the 7 branches, the offering of the 7 branches is an antidote to that. It is to practice generosity towards sentient beings and making offerings towards those higher beings, like the jewels. So then if one has a general wish to give, then merely processing many things in itself doesn't cause any harm. But what causes the harm is the clinging to those things. And normally we like to gain things, get things. And as we accumulate things, our clinging attachment, our self-grasping increases. And you think that this is what I have this, I have that. Or people need a lot of clothes. It's not enough to just have 1 or 2. They have to get more. And even if the house is already full with clothes, they go buy more clothes. And so that's because there is no contentment. But then when it comes to giving away something, they can't do that. They're stingy. So that's the antidote to that, making offerings and being generous. So what's the nature of this stinginess? No matter how much you get, there is no contentment. That's the nature. For example, even if you have, say, $1 million, you still want more. You don't have enough. But when you have to give any of that away, you suffer. You don't want to give anything away. So here it says, when aspiring for enlightenment. So this term enlightenment, Changchup, Chang means to purify. And so what is to be purified is self-grasping, the self-cherishing mind. And how it is purified is by that second syllable, chup, which means to master or accomplish an altruistic mind. For example, when there is some food that you like, you feel that I want to eat that, I will eat that. And it's constantly our thoughts go around this I want this and I want that, but rarely do we really want to give anything away. We don't have this mind that wants to give anything away or make offerings to the 3 jewels and so forth. So Mila Ripa had said, even if you have no material thing to give in acting generously, if you have the wish to give, then even the little that you have, like a little bit of food that you might give to an animal already, that becomes an antidote to attachment. So that sustaining that mind that wants to freely give without holding back, that does not allow the mind to freeze into an ice block. So that's the benefit of this sustaining a wish to give to others. So think about those benefits and also the harm caused by trying to own things and not give things. For example, in the past, before the Buddha attained enlightenment, he took birth in 500 impure and 500 pure ways. And throughout that time, he perfected the paramita of generosity. He transformed the 6 afflictive emotions into the 6 paramitas. And to do so, he endured many hardships. Now he is the Buddha, shining like the sun in this world. And that is a quality of the 6 paramitas. And so when the Buddha first taught the 6 paramitas, first and foremost, the first one that he taught was the paramita of generosity, because it is an antidote to self-grasping.
초체가 말이 뒤중도 시고 말이 제가 산지에 로도 나주는 남민지를 예다리 또아요 종점 이봤다는 삼성 거리지 어따때 이제 죽기를 때도 올라고 말이지 사자 도살 속 차제도 처번 늘 차와리 좀 신경 걸어도 파도로 죽으로 톡트는 데서 tik도 가끔 이가 그랬더니 톡트를 들고 또 들으면 어디 들때 내는 들고 차가 야도 코 도도 들어가서 차를 들고랑 이거 파송을 파도고 들고 도로 도서 코 도가 뒤서는데 들은 즉 뒤서 뭐 좀지게 즉사버랑 소위 하래 인제 이시 제가 사지성을 이치요나 몇건 통우스들이 초아지 사지까지 딱들이 실로 초아 가가들래야 요래 제가 배는 실랑을 나도 득바라다 또 그런데 차다오라서 탐지 크리스천이랑이 파노와다 제가 속상은 유모가 소소 그런 적대때 되는 유모 도들이 뭐라더니 다시는 이 머리 제박시 당이 벌써 봐서 예서나 뚱딩이 반 통로들이 되는 적랑지를 소소 방들로 요래 대저 무슨 소야 요랬지.
And so, self-grasping and stinginess is something that we all possess, self and other, we all have that. But it's important that we recognize its fault. For the most part, even though we have it, we don't really recognize it. We take no notice of it at all. So when the Buddha taught the 4 thoughts to turn the mind, this is how he described the hungry spirit realm. Like this sense of lack of contentment and so on, and not having enough, manifests as these hungry spirits with this large belly, as large as a valley, and a very narrow throat. And so some people might think that this is just a mental body, but not really. Actually, there is creatures like that here in this world too. For example, there is this certain kind of bug. It's like a leech. That's kind of small, but the moment it latches onto your body, you can't take it off anymore, and then it begins to drink your blood, and it fills up and it grows bigger, and then eventually it falls off on its own. And so then it has this like huge blood-filled belly and cannot walk. So this is very similar. Lord Chigden Sumgön had said that karmic ripening is the momentary manifestation of one's inner thought, one's mind. So if you really believe in the words of the Buddha, then you can see it all around you, the truthfulness of the Buddha's words. So when you look around, a real feeling arises wherever you look. For example, when you see a poisonous snake or a scorpion, then a feeling arises. You know that this is a manifestation of hatred or a manifestation of jealousy. For example, as a manifestation of jealousy, these animals, they even though you don't actually go after them, they go after you and cause harm. So that's just a natural appearance. And so then the Buddha taught an antidote for each of those 6 afflictive emotions. For example, generosity is the antidote to stinginess, and patience is the antidote to hatred, and so forth. But it begins with seeing the fault in those afflictions and really seeing that wherever you look, actually you can see an example of it. So it says, without hope of reward or karmic results. So what is the harm in wishing for some karmic results or some rewards when we practice generosity? The harm is that self-grasping arises. There is this hope. Do you think that if I do that, I will get something from it in the future? And then there is, like, if you don't get it, and then there is regrets, and then you lose your merit. So the self arises. So don't think in this way. Once you have given away something, then it's already been completed. You already gained the karmic reward from having given in itself, because self-grasping is the root of the 84,000 afflictive emotions. And once you have given away self-grasping. So you already have gained the advantage, the reward, you already have gained it. So you should just think that that is enough. Just giving in itself is already enough. There's no need to hope for anything more. So think about just the qualities of generosity.
너는 요즘 해봐. 요즘 가려면 삼지에 해봐서 그렇지. 저럴 추첨 탐치라는 얘기 좀 그렇지. 오, 제일 라도 단디다 가자 근데 컨는 돌아 소소 그 돌아를 독다 tel라서 가다 코알 타고요. 코알을 맡아라. 들이 이 피다들이 되다. 고바라고 그랬지. 피 집어 도고 말했어. 라도므로 배스. 너는 세미베 사바데 니지즈 마치나. 들이 섬장보다 과연 거 말했어.
And next, verse number 26 says, if you lack moral discipline, you cannot accomplish even your own purpose. So wanting to achieve the purpose of others is truly absurd. Therefore, protect your discipline without concern for worldly existence. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So in general, in the Buddha's teachings, there are many different modes of moral ethical discipline, the different vows of the individual liberation, the bodhisattvas and the vajrayana. But what is the ultimate actual ethical discipline? Milarepa has said, aside from giving up deception, there is no other ethical discipline than that. So to be free from deception, not deceiving others, that is to develop a sincere feeling of love and compassion for all sentient beings. It is a completely undefiled wish to benefit them. And if you have that, naturally, whatever you do with body, speech, and mind becomes beneficial. If not, if the mind is tainted by self-grasping and pride and arrogance and so forth and self-concern, even if one teaches the Dharma, one cannot really benefit that disciple. And that is because the way to melt an ice block is through the warmth of love. Even though you may be able to speak the Dharma, but if the mind is like an ice block, you cannot melt another ice block. So this is how you cannot really benefit them. So let alone deception now. Of course, we cannot deceive others, but on top of not deceiving them, so just not deceiving them is not enough. We also must cultivate an untainted, a true wish to benefit them, true love and compassion. And when you just have that, from that perfect ethical discipline will naturally arise. And so it says, if you don't have that, then now you don't even accomplish your own purpose. So wanting to achieve the purpose of others is truly absurd. So if you yourself bring with you this mind of pride and arrogance and selfishness, then you will not become liberated from the 6 realms of samsara. Therefore, not being liberated from samsara, it is absurd to think that you can liberate others or benefit others. On the other hand, if you simply have a wish to benefit them, then naturally a great benefit will come about. So this is all that is really needed. It is this sincere love and compassion for others. And if you have that, pure ethical discipline will come from that naturally. And Chamgyung Kongtrul had said, now he described this self-grasping. So he said what it is that this demon of self-grasping leads to one's own ruin, and it remains there hidden in the mind. So it leads to one's own ruin because that's the one that spoils all your chance for any happiness in the higher realms temporarily, and also the ultimate attainment of enlightenment. It's your self-grasping, the basis of all afflictive emotions, the basis of all deception. So you might verbally speak about altruism and things like that, but in the mind, if they are self-grasping, as Milarepa said, it is only deception.
다 주바레스 니셔 답된바 게벨론 조도 자세라송 누지 당제는 기대 당송송 아니 게벨론 조를 강의다 다 삼제라 봐 이용하레스 오 뒤서부터 상제 당제 나오겠다 삼제 상속심을 삼제 고면 되라 서그 누바 땅을 되라 조바 공수는 조바 편에 삼제도 보자 타고 요래시 조바 공부들은 삼제지 요때 세상 초라도 요래시 오 하자지 왔지 뭐는 저 공수는 뛰는 파 공부로 따라 차르지 때만이지 오저 누바 자당 땅을 될 조바 공수는 이람지 우지 탐제지 때 땅서 누바 리리 땅 될시 조바 리리 공수는 들이 배수고 차로요 이렇게 때 땅 성수.
Then verse number 27 is a verse on patience. For bodhisattvas who desire a wealth of virtue, all harm is like a precious treasure. Therefore, without hostility, be patient with everyone. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So the wealth of virtue, that is a wealth of virtue, or this precious treasure, is love. There is no greater wealth to possess than the wealth of love. It is the most valuable jewel that all the Buddhas of the 3 times have found. It is love, it is bodhicitta. And a person who possesses love, if anyone harms that person, they are able to practice patience. And in this way, they are able to sustain their love. If you are not able to practice patience, you will eventually lose your love. And often it is, as you mentioned, the greatest, strongest love that then becomes the greatest hate, turns into the greatest hatred. And all your love is lost in the end. So therefore, no matter how much others hurt you or harm you, if you're able to practice patience, you are gathering a great wealth of virtue. Every time someone harms you, if you practice patience, you become very wealthy in virtue.
무슨이 조기 팔아도 선바지 대로 망보요리 조바미나 삼진지 가리용나요 가리나 찍고 말이 가리나 라로 요리 빼나 조바미나 이 팔아도 선바 쪽 가리롱 째네요 제 진상 최대들이 라로 빼나 이마타나 파이마타나 오처 코소로나 다시로 코소로 들이 집어서라도 그래 야 상hin지 거는 선hin지면은 야들이 타말바다 저 데이터를 개를 사와 가리치네한테 조바미를 타고 잡았잖아. 들이 누 주상 보세요나 때누 약보면은 들이 돌아도 그래. 들이 사족센테 들이 오마타버레지 누들 루사 세르 만나는 거래. 세르 차야요면 더 건이 보스가 Rinpoche tamchiden zuba paradsum serri sa serri bete yare sajuksaba dibora sa karishin sa kuma chala kuma lati serri karishin jawayuma mera sa churkuna bete sa ta serta sajuksaba bete deda zuba gongo sam.
So practicing patience means that it begins with those that you spend your lives with, like your family, and those people that always surround you in your daily life. These are the ones you have to practice patience with. And there are many people who have perfected patience in that way. If you do not have patience, you really have nothing. You have lost everything. You will lose your love. You will lose your compassion. You will lose anything that you have if you have no patience. Any of the 6 parameters is lost. For example, whatever you might have enjoyed or given, for example, you have practiced generosity. When a certain condition arises and you lose your patience, you get angry, then all of that is actually in some way wasted. Then you become like an ordinary person with ordinary love and ordinary compassion that is easily lost when anger arises. There is no patience. And then even though you might engage in some virtuous activities, it really becomes spoiled if you cannot sustain your love for others with patience. It is just like you have a good vessel, like a sturdy vessel, but then the contents becomes somewhat spoiled, and then it's also worthless. So the content, like the milk you pour into the vessel, bodhicitta is like this milk that you pour into the vessel. And actually, it is also said that it is like gold, or it is like a golden vase that cannot break. Patience, the perfection of patience, is like such a piece of gold, or precious gem. So there's two main examples that are given to a bodhisattva who practices patience and bodhicitta, and that is, they are like earth, like the ground, and they are like gold. Like the ground, like the earth, because there is stability, they are stable like the ground. The ground will not tell you, don't walk on me. And gold, because gold is unchanging, steadfast. That's an example of bodhicitta. And so this is how we should engage in a practice of patience. So tonight we will dedicate with the prayer, the Jigten Sumgön's dedication prayer in our yellow prayer book on page 18. It is very short, and also we added that newly to the text, and it contains a lot of blessings, so we'll just read that for dedication tonight.
Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma, Lord Gampopa, Padmadrupa, and Lord Dragungpa, may the auspiciousness of all the Kagyu Lamas prevail. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage gurus, divine assembly of Yidams, assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, Yogini and her assembly of Dakinis, all of you dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of attachment, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, respect, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. At the moment of death, may I not experience the suffering of being abruptly severed from this life. May I not suffer a terrible death. May I not die confused by wrong views. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind itself and in the crystal clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
long la.
For this realm, encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. Tenzin Gyamso, Lord Chenrezig, may you remain steadfast until the end of samsara. Embodiment of the three jewels, the great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakya lion, supreme are your activities of guiding others with your perfect deeds. May you, the precious Guru, who accomplishes everything spontaneously, live long. Holder of the teachings of the Lord Drigungpa, great Lord of three jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and holy Dharma's peace and light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. The one known in the noble land as Aryadeva, emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chudingpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of the glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 aeons. Crown of the Shakyas, kind friend to strangers, the 17 great Panditas, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Jigten Sumgun, and their lineage heirs, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Protector Amitayus, Transcendent Lord, who grants supreme life, everlasting, stable, and unchanging, who diverts from untimely death anyone who merely hears your name or thinks of you. Please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Living austerely in the higher trainings of discipline, full of compassion that is the glory of those to be tamed, devoid of all grasping, never parting from Mahamudra's natural state, Ngedun Tempe Nima, son of the teachings, may your life remain firm. May the teachings of the great Drigungpa, Ratnashri, the master of interdependence, omniscient Lord of the Dharma, who has seen all knowable things, be upheld until the end of cyclic existence through study, practice, hearing, contemplation, and meditation. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate era. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate to the Bodhisattva Chenrezig.
Goodbye.